Welcome to the Inspire series. My name is Hannah Lancaster. I am a consultant with Bridge Innovate, and I am excited to share our guests and our topic today. The Inspire series is presented by Bridge Innovate. We are a business innovation consulting firm located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we work with capability building, strategy design, change management, leadership development, all the best things, helping our clients solve tough challenges. So the Inspire series is part of our Innovation for Good. This is our social impact program that we offer free educational and tools to our communities. So we love bringing on different inspiring leaders to share their insights and experiences. That's what we are. So today we have two really special guests. We have Jim Reagan and Josh Sherwood from Media One. Reagan is a leader in the digital advertising world, leveraging his experience with technology. So he is an innovative and creative leader that adeptly manages resources to achieve the best possible results in sales and marketing, operations, and product development. He is located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're excited to hear more about him and Media One today. And then we also have Josh Sherwood. So Josh is managing partner of Media One. He has worked with top brands and technology partners in travel, auto, finance, and more. His annual working budgets have ranged from thousands to over 20 million in a single annual budget. And he's worked with brands including Toyota, Hard Rock, and their all-inclusive resorts and collection, Pilot Pins, Cooper Tires, and numerous DMOs. So we are excited to have them here today. Josh is located in Atlanta, so we are all piping in from different places. I'm going to hand it over to Josh and Jim to give a quick introduction and a little history about Media One.
Great. Thanks, Hannah. I'm Jim, and of course, Josh, say hello there.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
We started Media One in early 2016, really as an organization to serve what we call mid-market clients, such not non-Fortune 500, but provide them with digital services and digital media strategy and execution. And kind of hit in what we call a sweet spot there, and really just the business took off. Originally, like when I formed it, to be candid with you, I'd come out of where I'd been vice president of an organization. We were trying to turn a division around and to make it from a company that was more in the print publishing side and then really create it into a digital side. And after about a year and a half of that, I went a different direction and said, I'm going to do my own thing. And so I started it, and with at my point in life here in the mid 50s, I thought, well, I'll do this till I retire. It would give me something to do. But again, we hit on something and found a niche that really took off. And then Josh joined in early 2017. And from there, we just really took off. But Josh, anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, we started off as a small company. Weren't sure if we really wanted to grow. I know we had several meetings where we wanted to stay at 3 people, then we added 2 people, and we wanted to stay at 5 people, and then we wanted to stay below 10. And here we are at 15 and counting. Yeah. So that's kind of we're all fully remote. That's kind of what we're trying to show here is, our culture, as we'll talk about more, plus Zoom, as we've become part of the Zoom crowd. That's how we've really grown throughout the past 5+ years.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what made you want to do remote, so early on? I mean, before people were like really discussing Zoom, like it was all sort of there, but nobody was really leveraging it yet. Like what made you just decide to do that as you started adding different team members?
Well, I'd worked for a number of years it was a startup out of Denver called Spot Exchange. Now it's Magnite, one of the largest video pre-roll companies in the world. And they had, when we started, we had an office obviously in Denver, but we had people all over the world, and it seemed to work pretty well for them. I was employee number 23, and honestly, we did it for cost savings. We were like, okay, how can we get going without being encumbered with a big office? And in doing that, we started remotely and now have offices in St. Paul, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Raleigh, Kingsport, Tennessee, and a couple others. Most of our teams in the Atlanta and Chattanooga area. But it's worked well. But we had, it takes, I'll say, as a CEO, who wants, you have to give up a little bit of control, which is not a bad thing. I think a lot of times CEOs probably try to hold things too tightly. And what you see is if you hire the right kind of people and empower them, they'll do great work remote or in the office. And we have an intentionality, I think, of touch points with our meetings. And, we do a thing called Media One Summits twice a year last, like in March, we did one where you guys led a design thinking series for us in Miami. And then the next one will be in Atlanta in December, where we bring the whole team together and we collaborate and try to, we call it collaborate, educate, and innovate for the good of our clients. So we get together and do that. Then we do huddles by department. So the departments will get together in different cities, and we'll huddle up and look at collaboration for innovation and whatnot. And then we have weekly stand-up calls, monthly team calls. So we have a lot of touch points. And when we get into it, the culture side of it provides a lot of called the glue to that fabric that keeps us rolling.
Right. And what is some of that glue? What are some of the things that you feel like have really changed that culture for you? I know you've talked about sort of who you hire for HR.
Yeah.
A little more about that.
Yeah. So I was reading a book called Winning by Jack Welch. And he talked about in there, he said, hey, I've always had the best experience with hiring former pastors in HR. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. And his reasoning was that pastors tend to be such great reads of people. And so we hired Mike Robertson from Andy Stanley's staff in Atlanta, a former pastor, and Cynthia Reagan, who also was a former children's ministry. And they formed a nucleus of our culture team. And that culture team, I think, has been a real game changer for us, because it's not something that the CEO should lead. And that's another thing that I read actually in a Harvard Business Review article, said that, the CEO needs to be, and the CEO and managing partners need to be accountable to it, not lead it, because otherwise it comes across as just bludgeoning people. Right. And we're not looking for the same kinds of people. We want a diversity of people and opinions, and even with some conflict, because conflicts are a lot of times are the best avenues of growth, because but you have to learn how to do that in the right way. And one of the things I think, again, that our culture team has done such an awesome job with is that intentionality of they do culture of communication, culture minutes that they push out monthly. They do, they'll do a lot of kind of we call it water cooler things, where they'll pop out photos of something and say, hey, give us your best photos of what you did on vacation, and everybody's sharing those around. And it's really neat. Yeah, a lot of things that, you don't have that water cooler discussion, but there are ways to remediate that or to mitigate that by touch points. And they've done a terrific job doing that.
Right. So in the sort of midst of this great resignation, has there been any point that you guys have sort of shifted what you do, or is it these things that you've already foundationally put into place that have sort of laid that groundwork? Or, were you ever sort of, freaked out as a company of like, is this going to happen to us? Is this going to hit us? And how did you sort of navigate that?
Well, oh, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. One thing I would say is we started to develop the pillars, give Jim credit for that. And we started to give people specializations so that, excuse me, they're not just managing campaigns and selling, their basic tasks, but they're also finding something that they're passionate about. And we really think that can lead to, a lot more growth in one way. Because this is our year of leadership that we're in right now. We didn't mention that, but that's one of our themes. And so we're giving everybody that leadership opportunity to kind of take the bull by the horns and run a pillar and or some sort of business operation within the company. And that to us really, just helps them, the day-to-day is a little bit more exciting, I would say, in that aspect. One other thing, just kind of touch on what Jim was saying before on culture and retention is, and just like our business model, there's a lot of different ways that our company could have been run. You can sit down and whiteboard it out and game plan it. The most natural thing that came to us was having you pretty much usually 2 people per account. You have a salesperson and a campaign manager, and both of those are senior level people. So we don't necessarily have a lot of junior level people that we're giving tasks to, at least, for now. And that's also gives people a lot of independence and empowerment. And they're also kind of building camaraderie. So each account has that teamwork being built into it. And I think that really, gives everybody a sense of ownership. That's which I think really goes a long way.
Right. How do you think that can be replicated in another business that maybe doesn't have that same sort of like account structure, like that same like ownership day to day? Do you think that can easily be sort of replicated?
Yeah, when you look at culture at a high level, it's basically, working towards a jointly held beliefs, and that certain things that I really, Disney did a great job of that with them. They have about 4 or 5 things that they look at that every employee, right down to people walking around the park picking up trash, know that are, like safety, customer experience, cleanliness, these things that, so, first thing they'll ask, they'll go through that checkpoint. Well, is this, if somebody says, hey, can we do such and such? They'll go through that checklist of those values. Because values, and this is, I think, critically important, whether you're raising kids, running a team, a business, is that values are much better at guiding people to do the things you want them to do than rules or laws. A lot of times if you have rules, that doesn't work. You want people to be empowered, and again, especially if you're a remote company, to know those values and say, okay, we're going to operate this way, and here's the key components of our culture and how we want to approach the marketplace and our customers. And so they're fairly well empowered to do that. Now, we collaborate a lot, but I think if you ask our team, they'd feel like they're empowered to make a lot of those decisions on the fly. But again, that takes we say Mike Robertson says leaders are repeaters. So you can't just throw out values and throw out your vision and mission one time. You have to constantly be inculcating that into the culture of the people and their minds, so that they can be the ones. Heck, even your clients can tell people how you operate and what you do. So that's
right.
That's, I think, very important.
Yeah, it can be very telling. And this might be kind of getting into that, what we're going to get into in a second with your case study, but what are some of the things that you use for empowerment? So, so often I feel like people think, well, I am developing my people, I am listening, but day to day it gets kind of lost sometimes. And so what is it that is, really allowed you to be truly impactful in empowerment? And what are some of those, tools that you might share?
When we talk about, again, one of the things we talk about is educate, innovate, and collaborate for our clients. That's internal as well. We want, so when we do these, our Media One summits, as an example, we'll have some educational elements to it. Like right now with leadership, they've broken it down. Jay and Cynthia and Mike have broken it down into personal leadership, leading yourself, leading a team and in the company, and then in the greater community at large. So there's 3 elements, that we're learning about as being leaders, because we want to cultivate people, everybody, to be leaders at some level in some place. That doesn't mean that that we have we don't have some hierarchy. We do have structure in our organization, but we want people, again, to have that feeling of being a leader. Josh mentioned the pillars. We have elements of our business that they team up and lead, but beyond that, it's just developing that mindset of a leader and taking ownership like a leader does of whatever you're doing, so that you can be
look like.
It's really important.
Yeah.
So,
and on top of that, it's kind of a 2-way street with trust. I know I came from a background of kind of wanting to do everything myself and not not delegating all the time. Sometimes rarely delegating, and just thinking, if it's going to take me 2 hours to tell somebody how to do it, I can just have it done by then. But if you do it that way, what we found is you can't scale up. I mean, because if you're the bottleneck,
Right,
then the work, basically you're the limit of how much your company can grow. So the
That's
culture
true.
team, one thing that we brought up Mike again, one thing that Mike always says is replace yourself, be able to replace yourself. So what we've learned throughout the years is, like I mentioned, is a two-way street of trust. Is you got to trust your employees that you hired to do the job that they're hired to do. And until they show that they can't do that and they're not accountable, which thankfully for us, they've been very accountable and very trustworthy. Everybody that we've hired so far, we've given them a lot of slack to be empowered and do what they need to do. And sometimes of course we're going to be there if they have questions, and if there's things that come up, sometimes we'll come in and maybe overrule or whatever you want to call it. But I think we give a lot of that empowerment and a lot of independence, because too, I don't want to be a micromanager. That's not I don't find that fun to go and look over people's shoulders and
That's a great point, though. That I love the replace yourself mentality. It's just, there's no scarcity mindset there. Like there's enough for everyone. Like everyone has different strengths to bring to the table and different things to offer. And I think that is just a really great point. I think it'd be really scary for a lot of people and very challenging, but I think that is something that we should all really bring in our day to day. I want to move us into talking about your case study, and that might, tap into some of the things you guys are just talking about. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your case study and sort of?
Yeah. Josh, good.
Yeah. So this is, case study about a key employee that, so we call it intrapreneurial instead of entrepreneurial. So it's basically being an entrepreneur inside your own business and giving them power to, and independence. So in this case, our campaign manager, he's been working with us for a few years. He, really has an interest in data and analytics. And so that's his pillar, and that's where he really wants to specialize, and that's his passion. So you don't have to ask him to, give you information. He's digging for it, and he's developing a product, and he's marketing it, and he's, every call you have with the team, he is going to tell you about his product, and he wants to sell it. Because also what we do is we give a little skin in the game for every, in a lot of these cases, if you develop a product, you bring it to market, you can sell it, you're going to get compensated for it too. You're not, it's not like you're just doing it just for the fun of it.
Right.
So in this case, we, as we say in the solution here, we gave him the lead for our data and analytics pillar. And that's one of our 5 major pillars. And so on top of that, he's gone above and beyond finding new tech platforms and data sources to develop. So he's really our go-to guy for all things digital, but he's also developed a product that we can sell and monetize. And you can see in the results there, in less than 6 months, we've gone from 0 revenue to over 55K. And I think we're easily going to hit 6 figures by Q1 of 2023, maybe Q2. But so that's, so just letting someone run with that. And, if I tried to control that, I would be the bottleneck, and it would have probably not gotten off the ground. But typically what it looks like is he'll come to us with questions like after he's put something together and ask, how does this look? But he doesn't have to come every step of the way and say, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? We just say, run with it. And
you just have to provide some support and steer.
Well, back to one thing on replacing yourself. One of the things that as we grow, we want, that requires a lot of trust. You've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to replace myself, then I'll be out of a job. No, what we want to be able to do is for you to continue to grow within the company. And this case study that Josh is showing you is an element where a guy or a person in our company has taken the initiative and is growing, and then he can build that team up underneath him as part of that. So we're again trying to empower people. And he touched on one other thing that I think is critical, is that we have set up our pay structures where people, everybody gets a little commission, or I wouldn't call it commission. They get some shared profit sharing from success. If we're successful, so are they. And, that's not something we've capped. I mean, if we grow, we want everybody to grow internally with us. So it's really important that people feel empowered to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we should definitely open it up for some questions. I think we've hit a ton of awesome points. I want to see if anyone in the audience has any questions. Feel free to put it in the chat or in the questions bubble down at the bottom. It has a Q&A bubble there next to the chat. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put it in and we will get to them. And while we wait for that, I want to ask you guys one more thing. Like, what are the top 3 things or, 5 things, whatever it might be, that you feel like have been big game changers for you? Like, if you could choose those things that have really been very impactful to you and your culture, what would they be?
I think, again, having a team or a person outside of us running that and us being accountable to it. And there have been a few times where I've had to say, man, I'm wrong and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have handled it that way. Here's the way I should have done that, which is, I think, incredible for opportunity, but need for CEOs to go, hey, I messed up. But, we didn't mention, we've had 92% client retention in the 7 years and 100% employee retention. So we've been really proud of that. So that's something I didn't mention. I should have mentioned up front.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, actually, we have a couple of questions coming in. So I have Jeff here asking, how are the pillars developed and how often are new pillars rolled out?
Well, I've always thought that, Steve Jobs was a pretty smart guy. And he said, you don't want to have more than 4 or 5 things that you're really known for. In their case, it was the iPad, the iPod, and the iPhone, et cetera. And so that you don't get too scattered. But I think we take it in a case by case basis. We try to keep that obviously within the sweet spot of our expertise and the expertise of our team. I mean, and to Josh's point on the one thing about, empowering our team, we want to utilize the skills and talents of our team to help grow the company. So if somebody's really good at, had a background in email marketing and they see an opportunity within our client base to grow email, and that's another one of the pillars, email marketing, then let's talk about that and build a plan to see if that's something we can do. So
yeah. It's building capacity. That's cool. I have a couple more questions here. So I love your word of the year idea. Do you have a word plan for next year or a theme plan for next year?
Not yet, but we are, it's in the, we'll have it by December.
Oh, good. So
We've thrown around a few ideas,
Yeah, that's right.
maybe the year of growth or something,
Or something,
What was last year's?
Gosh, I can't remember.
Year of surviving COVID.
Yeah, that's it. Survive in advance. Yeah. We actually, and I think probably digital was just being in the right place. We grew and hired through COVID. We pumped the brakes for a few months, just to, that first 3 months, like everybody, to say, okay, what is going on? Because this is uncharted territory. But once we kind of started to see what was going on, we then began growing that. And our team grew right through COVID.
Love that. I have a couple more questions. Do you have any personality type assessments that you do with your team? Yeah,
a good one. We've used the Enneagram. We actually had an outside source come in and do the, for those of you that are familiar with Enneagram, and look at, we did each of the employees. We do, when we onboard a new employee, we'll add that in there. We have a team, like if you know anything about the Enneagram, we are as a team, we're a 2, which means we love to help everybody. We're the helpers, and that, it's really, and again, our culture team, Cynthia really has kind of been our leader on that in helping us interpret that. And, it's not, it's a tool that helps you to understand people, their motivations, and then also ways that you can, again, conflict resolution or different things that really say what's going to resonate with that person. Has a good way to approach. Josh and I are 2 different ones. I mean, I'm an Enneagram 3, which is I want to win, which has got its good points and there's down points to that. There's times you got to say, you don't have to win everything. Sometimes you got to just, the best answer is no answer, just or not no answer, but the best comment is a non-comment is what the best way to put it.
I
So,
love the Enneagram too. It's such a really amazing tool to really understand like your own
Yeah.
strengths, the things that maybe come out as flaws when you're sort of like out of whack, you know, but then when
Right.
you really leverage it in the correct ways, like what sort of strength that can really be. I'm an Enneagram 7, and so I tend to be like really excited and just like stoked on everything, you know, like everything is really great. It's like I'm the
Right.
enthusiast is what I'm called. And so it's very fitting, but and it can be really great when it's like motivating, but sometimes it can feel scattered if I'm not, you know, focused.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
I think these are
What's-
really amazing things to know for your team.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, what's
and
kind of funny too is I was really skeptical of all this stuff, and I ended up being the skeptic on Enneagram 6. It was just so fitting. I'm like, this stuff doesn't matter, you know. But it's really
No
cool the
ego
way it
put me in a
works.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's, again, it's a good way to, and I think another important thing our culture team does that I really love about this, one of the biggest mistakes companies make from vision and strategy and everything is they'll roll it out one time and then you might not hear anything about it again. But they're constantly weaving in certain things with Enneagram, or then kind of dusted off and did a kind of an update reminder. Hey, here's who we are. Here's how we, you know, uh, as our team, and here's some of the things. So they'll bring updates and nuggets about like the Enneagram or design thinking or things. We're real big in, again, whatever we talk about externally, like education, which we do a lot of as a team, we do a lot of public speaking. But internally, we want to educate our guys. We empower them to, like we just had 2 finished programs at Cornell, one at Vanderbilt, where they got certification. We paid for all that. If it's something related to their, that'll help them be good at their job. Our marketing director just went through a program at Cornell where it was strategic marketing. So certification. If it makes them better, we want to educate, allow them and empower them to educate and to grow through continuing education too. And especially important, I think, for a company like ours, which is professional services. If you're in our case, it's digital marketing, is you got to continue to update and innovate your knowledge if you're going to be relevant in the marketplace. So we do that.
Right. Yeah, that's very relevant to us as well at Bridge. So I think that kind of answers Lulu's question. I know we're right at time, but I can throw out this last question if you guys have anything else to add to it. So it says, on people development, what does mentoring and personalized career development look like for you? So you kind of spoke a little bit about that, but maybe more about that mentoring side. Is there anything else that you would add?
yeah. One other quick thing I would add on the mentoring side is, again, it comes down to like trusting our employees and not necessarily, finger wagging or, being the know-it-all. We come alongside them and we walk in this, this journey with them. And in that way, we're both learning from each other, but, having a little bit more experience and, having done, just having different touch points, you kind of learn from each other. But I think that's the way you mentor somebody. It's not telling them what to do and how to do it, but it's just experiencing something together and then finding the best ways to handle it. And oftentimes, they might teach me something too. It might, the mentoring can go both ways in some ways, but that's the way I've really handled mentoring, is just not necessarily just telling people how to do stuff, but it's, experiencing it together and finding solutions.
Yeah, very relationship based.
Our culture team does a good job too of reaching out to employees and just touching base with them on a periodically. How are you doing? What's going on? And then pouring into that and just really making sure, not just them, but we try to do it too, where we're not just working in silos, but we are connecting with people. And those mentoring, and just like, like raising kids, a lot of those opportunities aren't scheduled. They happen as you in the, in real time, in real life. And so those coachable moments, teachable moments, we're big on correcting privately and celebrating publicly. I think that's really important. Same thing when you're, like if you're upset, you take it offline individually together. If something's up, you have a conflict on something, and then we have a process that, if you have to escalate it, you do it to your supervisors. And then, we've got, we haven't had much of that, to be candid with you. So I'm very grateful. But anyway, We do have a process if we need it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we are very excited that you guys have joined us today, and this has just been really insightful. I know this is something that's on everyone's mind, so this is very great information. So to wrap things up, we have a couple more things coming up for the Inspire series. We have a few more that are also sort of in the works coming in the fall. So next we have on September 29th, we have Sean Murray. Sean is an author and a CEO, and he has a new book that he's going to be talking about leadership lessons from a gold medal winning team. And then we also have Joanna Toma. She is from UNAM. She's an AVP in skills and talent development. So again, some talent development and cultivating flexible skills-based talent. And she's going to be on October 5th. That one had to be rescheduled, so you might have seen that one before. And then we have another one coming up soon with Adam Walcott, an entrepreneurial lecturer from UTC. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, and we will send you guys a recording and a blog post after this, so you can share it with your friends and family and your colleagues. And thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Anna. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Hannah.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.